Every kid knows about giraffes and their amazing long necks. We see giraffes in our zoos and in our African wildlife programs on TV. They are the tallest living known mammal on Earth and the largest member of the ruminant group of even-toed hoof mammals, reaching up to 20 feet in height and weighing as much as 1,800 pounds. But where do giraffes come from? Giraffes have cranial appendages that are very different from the horns of ruminant artiodactyls or the antlers of deer. Giraffes have ossicones, which are made of bone with a covering of skin and cartilage. In addition, they have an incredibly long tongue, which they can use to wrap around leaves and branches and pull them toward them, as well as stripping bark from trees. Some male giraffes even have a large knob on the middle of their forehead made of bone. People have wondered about where giraffes came from and got their long necks for a very long time. In 1809, the famous French naturalist Lamarck suggests that giraffes started with short necks, but then by stretching and stretching, they got longer and longer necks and passed these long necks down to their descendants. We now know that it does not work that way. Charles Darwin suggested another mechanism. He argued that natural giraffe populations are highly variable, with some individuals born with slightly longer necks than others. In tough times, when leaves are scarce and harder to find, only those with the longer necks could reach those leaves and survive. Those same giraffes would then pass on their genes for longer necks to the next generation and to the next, and so on. However, recent field observations have shown it does not work that way at all. It turns out that giraffes feed mostly on stuff that is about shoulder level. The long neck increases their feeding envelope, the total area you can reach without moving your legs. For a large animal like a giraffe, that makes a difference in how much energy they expend. It's actually a trade-off. It turns out that when giraffes are in bad conditions and under stress, the tallest neck ones don't survive as well. So when would long necks really be an advantage? The biggest difference is when male giraffes fight it out in a thing that's called necking. They battle with their necks slamming against each other for dominance. In this case, a stronger and longer neck gives the male adults a chance to survive and leave offspring. The 7-foot-long neck of giraffes helps them to reach food, but has its drawbacks too. To pump blood from the heart all the way up to the head above, giraffes have unusually high blood pressure, pumping 16 gallons of blood per minute. This means they have very large, strong hearts that weigh up to 25 pounds. And yet, when they bend over to drink water, the blood would rush to their head if it were not for the fact that they have a special network of fine blood vessels approaching their brain called the rete mirabile, which diffuses the blood pressure before it reaches the brain so they do not pass out. When they stand up again, they have to then have a series of valves in the jugular veins from their neck that prevents all the blood from rushing away from their head and also causing them to pass out. These features are not perfectly designed, but they work well enough for the giraffe to survive. Even more revealing is the course of the nerves in their neck. In your neck, you have a nerve called the recurrent laryngeal nerve. It branches from your spinal cord and sends nerve impulses to your vocal cords as well as to other parts of your esophagus, your digestive tube, and trachea, your breathing tube. If it's damaged or cut, it can affect your ability to speak or make you completely mute. If this nerve has an odd pathway in an embryo, this is associated with the front part of the gills in the embryonic fish, it loops over the aorta, the artery that pumps blood from your heart to the rest of your body. But a fish doesn't have a neck, so this pathway is relatively short. For humans, this same nerve must loop from the spinal column at the base of your head, down through your neck and to your heart, where it loops around the aorta, then back up through your neck to reach your throat, where it controls your voice box. If this doesn't seem poorly designed and inefficient, imagine what happens when your neck is stretched out like that of a giraffe. The recurrent laryngeal nerve in a giraffe branches out from a spinal column just below the head. It must eventually reach the voice box, only about 3 inches away, but instead it travels over 7 feet down the neck, where it loops around the aorta and the heart, and then 7 more feet back up the neck to reach the throat region and control the vocal cords and other parts of the esophagus and trachea. That's a total of 15 feet of unnecessary length. This is a classic example of how inefficient and poorly designed nature can be when it blindly follows embryonic pathways established by our fish-like ancestors. But despite this inefficiency, the giraffe gets along fine with an extra 15 feet of nerve length. As long as the giraffe can survive and breed to form more giraffes, the inefficiency of neck nerves doesn't matter as much as the long neck gives them an advantage. The long neck of giraffes is supported by 7 very stretched out neck vertebrae or cervical vertebrae. But how and when did this amazingly inefficient long neck of the giraffe evolve? It turns out there's an excellent fossil record of many different kinds of extinct giraffes going back 25 million years ago. Most of them had short necks. The earliest of these is Canthameryx, from about 23 million years ago in North Africa. From this ancestor, many different kinds of short-necked giraffes evolved. Prolibitherium had moose-like ossicorns that spread out with big flat surfaces. Others had ossicorns shaped like deer or antelope horns. Some, like the huge Shivatherium, had big branching ossicones, but the giant Brahmatherium had a big moose-like ossicone. It stood as tall as a modern giraffe, but had a short, thick neck and a robust body. Almost all fossil giraffes had short necks. There is even one more member of the giraffe family, the Okapi, which lives in Central Africa today. First discovered in 1905 in the deepest jungles of the Congo, it was unknown to science before then. As you can see, it has a giraffe-shaped head and has the characteristic ossicones and everything else like a giraffe, but no long neck. Recently, scientists have found a fossil called Samotherium major, which has a neck fossilized that's halfway between the length of the neck of a okapi and a modern giraffe. This demonstrates that the long neck of modern giraffes is a late feature to evolve and took place in gradual steps over longer and longer necks, not all at once. This is how evolution really works. It doesn't design perfect creatures or engineer perfect solutions. Instead, it starts with whatever building blocks were present in the ancestors and jury rigs a new form that works just well enough to survive.